Right. So thank you to the UIC's head magician in charge, VP Devon Thompson. I am back online with your favorite Friday morning staple. This is Town Cry and UIC Liberty TV. And of course, the money doctor himself, Mr. President, Mr. Joseph Pattison, is joining us. And in a short while, we'll also hear from VP Thompson. Now, as I said, there's a lot that is happening this week with the emerging dictatorship in Jamaica. And I'm sure Mr. Pattison will have his perspective on it to share with us, and VP Thompson as well, who is scrutinizing the constitution, or what we perceive to be a constitution. And again, in the past week, the veil has been lifted from our eyes and realized that we aren't as free as we thought we were. So the freedoms that we thought we had, we no longer have them. Imagine that. You didn't have it in the first place, and then to lose it. That is very traumatic for anyone. So right now, I can imagine all of Jamaica traumatized. Now, Mr. Pattison, what do you think of what is unfolding in Jamaica as we speak?
Well, I think the most important thing that we have seen, Sir Winston, is that the constitution we currently have doesn't protect us. That it's not a truly Jamaican constitution, that it allows and gives powers to our politicians that they should never have. And so if nothing else, the good news is all of Jamaica should now be able to see that at any time, the limited rights that they have can be swiftly taken away by any dictatorial prime minister, cabinet, or government that we have. And it stands to reason that all of us should want to see the UIC elected immediately to draft a truly Jamaican constitution that will protect the life, the liberty, and property rights of all Jamaicans.
No, with the amendment to the Disaster Risk Management Act, which I personally maintain is illegal, an illegal piece of legislation, because it contravenes what we perceive to be our constitutional rights. Even though they're not there, they say we have them. So, but they amended it, and an interesting concern came out where persons are saying they're now giving themselves the authority to administratively, through ministerial orders, create new offenses under the Disaster Risk Management Act. So we can wake up tomorrow and hear that whichever minister, the prime minister or whomever, the deputy prime minister or whomever, these trustworthy individuals that only seek to draw power onto themselves, say, you know what, I think I'll make it illegal for you to look like Winston. That it is now a crime to look like Winston. Under the UIC, how would we prevent that?
Well, first of all, if you don't have a proper constitution that makes very clear what the role of government is and the boundaries of government, then you will always have the problems that we have, which is why the UIC wants to completely eliminate the colonial constitution that we have, a constitution that was not written by Jamaicans for Jamaicans to respect the aspirations of all Jamaicans to be free. And so the prime minister is simply doing what a fraudulent constitution allows him to do. Now, when we talk about legality, something can be legal and it can be wrong. Slavery was legal and it was wrong. So the key thing for us is not to focus on the legality of an action, but whether or not it is right or is wrong. And here what is wrong. It is wrong for any government at all to have the power to restrict or take away your right to life, liberty, and property. It must only have the power to protect those rights. It must never have the power to take away any of those rights.
Now, there are going to be those who are traumatized, those who are now super skeptical. Because if we look back at the last election, 37% of the population voted. And we know those are the die-hearted persons who believe that the new Rico Suave in government is our Messiah, which we now see that he was a wolf in sheep clothing. So my question is this: for those people who are now traumatized and who realize that they now have no freedom that they thought they had, even though they didn't have it, That's a lot. How would the checks and balances in the UIC work, VP Thompson, to prevent a dictator from emerging legally?
Good morning, everybody. I didn't know you were going to call on me so quickly, Winston. I just showed up.
Well, listen, as a uniter, I know you are prepared to answer this question. Why? Because the UIC lives to bring this freedom to the people, so we know what it takes. Tell them, VP Thompson.
All right. So first of all, I want to welcome everybody that's here right now watching this video. And in the last few days, what we've come to realize, and many of us have realized this before, but it's kind of a shocker to me, that all the fundamental rights and freedoms that we enjoyed for the last 50 plus years was an illusion. It was a mirage. It's not real, because if it was real, there is no way on earth that the government of Jamaica could possibly ban us from marching or ban us from protesting, etc., etc., etc. The powers that the government of Jamaica has revealed to us in the recent weeks has showed us that the fundamental rights and freedoms that we enjoy are there only as long as they want it to be there. Okay? Under the UIC system, the UIC non-partisan constitutional system that we plan to roll out in Jamaica, we won't have a queen, we won't have a governor general, we won't have a prime minister. What we will have is a president and 3 vice presidents, 1 vice president for each county. Now, Joseph posted a video this morning with the opposition as well as the PM in Parliament, talking about the draconian powers that the PM enjoys. The opposition was saying that the PM has too much power. They were also saying that Parliament has no input on the powers that the government enact in the executive, right? So in the UIC system, the executive is going to be made up of the president and 3 vice presidents. And these are all independent Jamaicans and independent thinking Jamaicans. These Jamaicans are not people who are necessarily tied to a political party. So you might have a president who at one point in his life or in her life was a supporter of the PNP or a supporter of the JLP or a supporter of the UIC. And then you might have 3 vice presidents who have opposing views or opposing political backgrounds. So you're going to find that in the UIC system, you don't have a group of people working together for a party. You have people working together for Jamaica, for the country. So that's the kind of system that the UIC is trying to create. I see you have a comment there from somebody, Winston. I don't know if you want to have a look at that.
Yeah, I was waiting until you finish with your point to bring it up. But that person is saying we're already living in an age of dictatorship because freedom of speech are no longer available to us because Facebook has blocked me from yesterday until Sunday based and I spoke the truth. So yes, the age of dictatorship is already here. Now, the beautiful thing is that we are aware of what they are doing, whether it be an external force or a domestic force. Now, the sad thing is that our leadership that is supposed to protect the citizenry has also turned its back on the citizenry. And traditionally, the government of Jamaica has always been exploitive. It originated from the plantations, and they brought the constabulary with them that its origin was in the fields, bashing the slaves over the head to prevent them from revolt. And it's the same thing we find. The Prime Minister wants the people to behave in a particular manner, so he threatens them with his force, kicks off somebody's door and detain him and find evidence of something else. I thought you needed reasonable grounds. But
what is reasonable? What is reasonable grounds? You see, that is why you need clarity. That is why you need clarity in a constitution. I don't want anybody deciding what is reasonable grounds to kick off my door. What I want is a law that says you cannot kick off my door if I am not harassing you. If I am not trying to, if I don't come out of my house and try to murder you or try to enslave you or try to steal your property, you have no right to lay hands on me. You have no right to interfere with me, as I have no right to interfere with you. And so I think to your earlier point, Winston, where you ask Devon about the issue of checks and balances. Here's how it would never happen under a UIC government. You have a House of Representatives with persons who are nominated and elected without any party or private citizen funding them. So they're not beholden to any party, and they're not beholden to any private, powerful money person. You have senators who are elected similarly to represent their parishes without any private citizens funding their campaign and without them being beholden to a political party. So therefore, you have proper checks and balances. As it is now, the prime minister controls the cabinet because everybody there serves at his pleasure. The prime minister controls the House of Representatives because all of those who are the majority are elected on his party ticket and must toe the party line or suffer the consequences of that. And the prime minister controls the full executive cabinet because any minister who seeks to go against his will can be removed from office, which is why this same prime minister tried to put in place pre-signed resignation letters of senators. So if they don't rubber stamp what he wants, he would be able to remove them. We have a prime minister that has shown over the years that he prefers a dictatorial approach to governance than a truly inclusive and voluntary-based system. And as a result of that, he's now exercising the powers under the fraudulent constitution that we now have to do exactly what it has intended, that whenever the people disagrees with the government will have the power to override the interest of the people. And that we need to stop.
Now, let's talk about the Governor General, the Queen's man on the island. I believe he has the authority to reign in a government of this magnitude because of the reserve powers that he has. Now, two questions. How could he do that, as in reign in the current condition, VP Thompson and Mr. Patterson, when the UIC removes the vestige of colonialism, i.e. the Governor General, where will those reserve powers go? Mr. Thompson, you first.
Okay, so first of all, the Governor General does have the power to rein in the government because the emergency powers that the government is now using was declared by the Governor General, and he can rescind that power at any point. But the question we want to ask is, do we really want to ask the Governor General, the Queen's representative, to interfere further into our politics, into our system? I personally would not ask the Governor General to do anything for us. I want the Governor General to stay out of our business. I do not recognize the Governor General as somebody who has authority over me or over my life. So I would not ask this person to intervene. I would have asked this person to have not declared that public emergency in the first place without proper evidence, without transparency, without informing the Jamaican people of the issues, the detailed issues that we are facing. So Winston, the UIC sent a letter to the government of Jamaica asking for clarification on COVID-19 PCR testing, COVID-19 machines in sometime in January. I believe it was the first week of January. And we have not yet received a response. So you see, this public emergency, this Disaster Risk Management Act that we are now facing has come about without any form of transparency. The Jamaican people have no idea what's going on. We are blindly, I'm not going to say we, but the Jamaican people are blindly trusting that the government knows what it is doing. But to further expound on your question, if somebody really does want to ask the Governor General intervene. The Governor General doesn't necessarily need to use his reserve powers. He just needs to use the powers provided to him in the Constitution, and those powers include the revocation of laws, the ascension of laws, as well as the revocation of the public emergency that he declared.
Thank you, VP Thompson. Mr. Patterson, tell us now, where would those powers go under the UIC that the Governor General hold in reserve?
Right. Those powers will really go back to the people of Jamaica, because we don't need those reserve powers. You know, the essence of understanding the problem is to first ask ourselves the question, what is the role and purpose of government? And as long as we keep not understanding the role of government, we will look at all kind of different configurations for solving the problems that we have. Let's look at the problem of the COVID right now that we have, just the COVID. We could go the way the government is currently doing it, which is to use draconian measures to force people to comply with what it thinks is appropriate. But let's look at the UIC way. We proposed to the government from the very beginning, and we still propose to the government today, to take a non-partisan, non-draconian, inclusive approach to the pandemic. What does this mean? It means, first of all, to create a wartime-like council where you bring all the political leadership together, subject matter experts together, the army, the police, and leading civil society groups, led by the Prime Minister, of course, and have them govern the response within the boundaries of the government's jurisdictions. This will mean we will have full transparency in every step of the problem analysis and in the public response. It will also mean that the government will then focus on providing timely, accurate, and complete public education to all citizens on a daily basis via all the various media platforms. Then, the government should provide non-partisan public support of vital supplies to every citizen in need of assistance. What do we mean by this? We mean that we're going to empower, or we should have, and we should consider doing that now. We should empower and equip every citizen with the trustworthy information and public support they need to make responsible decisions to safeguard their families and communities. The government should focus on its rightful role of protecting the rights of citizens, protecting the rights of every citizen to their life, to their liberty, and to their property. This, by the way, would keep crime in check, because the government would not be all over the place trying to create mandates and running behind citizens to put on your mask or whatever, but would focus our limited resources on making sure that every citizen is safe because they're protected from criminals while their personal rights and freedoms are being protected. The government should not engage in the use of force. And if it doesn't engage in the use of force for the purpose of the COVID-19 and only use force to protect us from criminals, what you're going to have is a well-educated society, a society that can trust its government, a society which is empowered to make good decisions, and in the end, a more economical approach to solving the COVID crisis. This is the UIC way, and it contrasts 100% with the way the government is doing, and speaks to now why we don't need a governor general, we don't need a queen. What we need is a constitution that fully protects our rights and gives us a well-balanced government that does not concentrate power in the hands of any one person or any one group within our governance structure.
Winston, if I may,
Yes, sir.
If I may, I want to follow up on something that Joseph says, and I want to address our viewers directly and our membership in the UIC Facebook group. It is important that the citizens of a country, it doesn't matter what the country is, it is important that the citizens of a country have faith in and trust in their government. If the citizens do not trust their government, they will not be quote unquote obedient as many want Jamaicans to be. Because I see a lot of people comparing Jamaicans to folks in first world nations like Canada and the US, like these people aren't disobedient too, right? The point of the matter is that the government must be more transparent and must include the citizens in its activities, in these measures. Because if it's not, the citizens will continue to distrust the government and will continue to ignore even healthy recommendations, right? Listen, if, for example, the JLP government is in power right now, so the JLP supporters trust the government, but the PNP supporters do not. Right? If the PNP government was in power right now, the JLP supporters would not be trusting the PNP government. Right? So it is up to government right now to be transparent and to build trust in the community and to let go of this. I call it the ultra toxic partisanship nonsense. Right? Get rid of that. Forget about the comrade. Forget about the labor right. All of us are Jamaicans. We are Jamaican.
Yeah.
Right?
And Devon,
yes,
and we won't have that kind of trust unless we have a system that is designed to create trust. The current system we have is designed as government and opposition. Okay? So it's designed to instill mistrust. It's designed to instill division in our people. Now look at the UIC model, what we do. We remove government and opposition. You no longer have government on this side and opposition on this side. What you have is government only. I'll give you a simple example for your viewers to understand. In a business, if you were to set up a business and put a board of directors together and cut the board in two and say you are opposition and you are government of the business, they'll be fighting each other and the business would crumble, which is what has happened with Jamaica. But if you create government where anybody can speak up, so even though you and I might be of a UIC persuasion or another two-person of a GLP persuasion, when you come to the government, your voice can be heard clearly. You don't have to worry that if you speak up, your leader can then ban you, can kick you out of the party or kick you out of the cabinet. The UIC model, the party has no power over the people anymore. What has power over your representative is the people of the constituency. They're the only ones who determine whether you go back to parliament or not. And so we need a system that inspires trust. And if you have a system that inspires trust, the people will be trustworthy. But let's for a moment say that we didn't have the system and we have what we have now. If Andrew Holness had followed the UIC model of creating an inclusive solution to COVID and not make it partisan, just say this will not be partisan Jamaica and invite the opposition leader, invite the president of the UIC, invite some subject matter experts and some civil society groups and say we're going to form a council. I'll be the leader, the spokesperson, but we're going to make sure that all the information we have about COVID comes to you. So you get the same briefing that I get as Prime Minister. You'll have the full details. Our research people will give their research results to this council in your presence. So I'm not controlling the message or controlling what you get. Then we're going to go to the people. There'll be no partisan handouts of anything. Nobody's going to come with their green shirt or orange shirt and give out anything. We are going to use the police, the army, and the public institutions to disperse what needs to be dispersed. And we're not going to have any political mileage. Whatever we say out of this COVID council is not the PNP position or the GLP position or the UIC position or any other persuasion position. This is the government of Jamaica with the Jamaican people working transparently to communicate the problem, communicate the analysis, and communicate the solution. And the solution must never be that we take away your rights and freedoms. It must be that we educate you, we empower you so that you can make good decisions for yourself and your family.
No.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
On that very powerful narrative, let me interject. The UIC system is simply this. a straightforward community building proposition, is what I call it, that will bring together the brightest and the best in a country. The parliament is now filled with Rhodes scholars of various kinds, achieving scholars and all of that. But yet, our economy is failing. It's on a downward trajectory. It is now subterranean, subpar, after 75 years of self-governance. And we still refer to ourselves as a developing country or a developing democracy. After 75 years, if you're 75 years old, you have lived 3/4 of your life.
Yes.
So, having said that, in a UIC government structure, when the people speak, how will their voices be heard? And it might seem a simplistic question, but it's for everyone to understand. How will a UIC government listen to the people?
That's a very good question. And what does it mean to listen to the people? What does every citizen want in Jamaica? Every single citizen in Jamaica wants to go to bed at night and wake up in the morning and go to work in a safe environment. Every single citizen wants that. The only person who does not want a safe environment is a criminal. Every single Jamaican wants a clean environment. So we don't need to spend a lot of effort arguing about that. Everybody need good roads. Everybody needs sidewalks. Everybody need good street lights. Everybody need a good police service. Everybody need a good justice system. Everybody need a clean Jamaica, a beautiful Jamaica. That's a given. What else then will the people ask of government? Well, before we answer that, we should ask the people, what is the role of government? And when the people understand, that's where leadership comes from now, the people must understand that the government doesn't exist for us to vote for free gifts, for one to come and promise us free water, and one to come and promise us free electricity, and one to come and promise us free education, and one to come and promise us free healthcare. We need to educate our people that is not the role of government. Your politician is not there to give you free things. Your politician is there to hold the government to account, to protect your rights and freedom, and provide a safe, clean, and orderly environment for you to be able to go about as a productive citizen, to feed your family, to clothe your family, to educate your family, and to ensure the health care of your family. But if you don't have good governance, if you don't have a country which is being run properly, then no, the government will be stealing your money, taking out 40% of your GDP, and then giving you nothing in return while promising you heaven. So they promise you prosperity without productivity, and all it leads to is more poverty.
Well, now let's look at this, Joseph. A Jamaican who wants to serve his or her country looks at the present government and they're all turned off. And I know because I'm trying to recruit for the UIC. But yet, these traditional parties have a swell of supporters from different professional ranks. Why do you think that is?
The money, simple. In Jamaica, the best way to get rich is in politics. If you are going to be an entrepreneur in Jamaica, where you're going to sit down and try to plan and design and build a business, which is where your energy should be. We want more Jamaicans to be thinking about products and services they can build and bring to market. But what does that mean? It means for the little man who raising him goat, him try to raise him goat, and as him raising them, somebody can come and just thief them with impunity. Him go report it, nothing comes of it. He tries to build his business. Somebody can come any day and just stick him up, rob him and kill him, and nothing comes of it. So your question is, why are they going to politics? Why is the prime minister and his wife involved in politics? Why are all the long-time leaders of the parties bringing their children and grandchildren into politics? Why? Because in Jamaica, politics give you connection and access to taxpayers' money. You can get contracts, or you can build fake companies and push contracts to them. And this allows you to get rich quicker and faster at the expense of the people. The UIC is going to cut out that gravy train. We're going to sever the link between politics and getting rich. Politics must not be a place where you go to get rich. It must be a place that protects you so that you can live, earn, and retire with dignity in your own country.
No, I know both of you are serial entrepreneurs and committed to creating companies and empowering people to create companies in a very big way. And Devon, well, I won't put your business out in the street. I'll let you do that yourself. The question, though, is this. How will that skill that you have used for your own personal benefit translate on a national level? Let's start with you, Devon.
Okay. So first of all, growing up, I knew nothing about entrepreneurship. I knew nothing about money. So lots of the activities that I have engaged in have failed, right? And one of the reasons why many of those failed was because I didn't learn. The only thing I learned in school is how to work for somebody, right? I was taught. So I have a degree in engineering and an advanced diploma in energy system engineering technology. And every one of these courses, even in high school, I was taught to work for people. I was not taught how to monetize my education. And that's what's important. Right now in Jamaica, our education system is spitting out worker bees. It's not creating entrepreneurs, right? We have to have a system that educates people about how to monetize their education. So no, I came up with the idea that I spoke with Joseph about. I'm not sure if I spoke to you about this idea, Winston. So Jamaica has a public library system, right? So I said, you know what? Why don't we transform the Jamaica public library system into a self-learning educational system where Jamaicans who are interested in learning about entrepreneurship, learning about politics, learning about engineering, whatever it is that you want to learn or you want to teach yourself, you just pop into one of those self-help library institutions and learn about entrepreneurship. One of the things that opened my mind wide open was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. And that book was amazing. When I read that book, I was upset. You're probably gonna think I was supposed to be enlightened or happy, but no. When I read that book, I was upset. I was raving mad. And the reason why I was upset and mad was because Robert Kiyosaki revealed to me that all this time, government has been holding back information. Let me ask you a question. When you were going to school, did they teach you how to file taxes?
No.
Yet, taxes is an important part of our lives. Yet, they didn't teach us how to file tax. Listen, they're not teaching us how to be productive citizens. They're teaching us how to fail. do you understand what I'm saying? Joseph, you're muted.
I
They're
do.
teaching us how to fail, right? So some of these things we need to learn. We need to understand these things. Otherwise, we're not going to have a Jamaica that is at a gold standard, like a Singapore, right? Like a Switzerland, or many of these big, powerful, free nations. And that's one of the other things. In order to be a successful nation, we have to be a free nation. We have to have freedom to learn, freedom
to grow, to excel.
Freedom to excel, right? The government controls the education system from primary all the way up to territory. The government owns the UTEC. It owns the UWI. It owns the Caribbean Maritime Institute, right? There are only a few universities in Jamaica that is not owned by the government of Jamaica. They control our education.
And even if they don't own it, they control it.
Sure.
Yeah, you see, when you give the government powers it shouldn't have, it can influence institutions in very bad ways. And so the UIC has always been opposed to government owning and controlling education, because it means that if you have the wrong kind of people in government, they can give you the wrong kind of education. And as
We
you have
have
said,
had the wrong kind of people.
well, yes. And to Mr. Thompson's point, what has happened over the years is that we have been miseducated. Our students know very little about the great work of Marcus Garvey. I'm not talking about some basic information like his name and date of birth and where he was born. And those base. No, I mean, we need to have a deep understanding and appreciation for what Marcus Garvey, a little man, a Jamaican with only 8th grade education, went and liberated African Americans. I mean, we rejected him here. The PNP and JLP colluded to destroy his political party, the PPP, and pretty much run him out of Jamaica for the most part. And he went to America and he transformed the lives of Black Americans, give them hope, give them self-awareness, give them an appreciation for entrepreneurship and why they should become owners and not merely servants and employees. And so Marcus Garvey showed us why it was important to be economically free. And of course, he was later on convicted wrongly and evicted pretty much from the US. But Marcus Garvey, his principles are still valuable today. And what Robert Kiyosaki teaches us is what Marcus Garvey practiced so many years ago. And we today need to do the same thing. Our education system needs to be liberated from the control of politicians so that the hundreds of Jamaicans who have grand ideas, great methodologies of how to learn math and English and history and geography and science and technology and how to apply all of these things to create successful businesses and products. We need to harness all of that. And as long as we lock it up in the hands of 63 men and women in Parliament who get, but a small minority of them called the executive branch, get to dictate everything to us, Jamaica can't grow. So we have to liberate our people. We have to liberate our economy. And Mr. Winston, I have to go. My meeting, another meeting starts for me 3 minutes ago. So take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of the discussion.
All right, Joseph.
Okay, Joseph. Okay. Take care.
So,
yes.
I'm gonna have to run in a few minutes too, but to follow up on what Joseph said. As I said, like I was upset when I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, and I even got more upset when I learned that the cash that we use, the dollars, right? It's not real money. It's called fiat currency, right? I didn't learn these things growing up. I didn't know that real money was actually gold, right? I didn't know that money is actually backed against gold and backed against productivity. So the Jamaican currency is backed against the US currency, which is backed against nothing, right? The US dollar has, since the US dollar has stopped being backed by gold, it has lost 95% of its value. The US dollar, right? And right now, the Jamaican dollar is, what is it, $114 right now, Winston? 114
no, it's
to 1?
It's more than that.
Mm-hmm. So think about this. If the Jamaican, the US currency has lost 95% of its value, how much of the value the Jamaican dollar lose, right? So we don't learn these things, right? So and one of the reasons why a lot of people want socialism or want democratic socialism is because they don't understand money, because they think that the government can just print money into existence that's not backed against anything and life would be okay. But that's not the case, because when the government prints money that's not backed against, when the government prints currency that's not backed against real money like gold or backed against productivity, it creates inflation. And inflation is another term for a tax on savings, right? When there's inflation, the money you pay. When there's inflation, your pay increases, goods increase, but you know what doesn't increase? Your savings. And because everything else is so last year a laptop might cost $500, right? And the next year now inflation raises it to $1,000. Last year your savings was only $500. This year your saving is still $500. So the value of that $500 saving has been reduced effectively by inflation. And this is what many who support democratic socialism or socialism needs to understand. And this is why nations fail when they just print money all willy-nilly like that, right?
No, I just had a comment that says the exchange rate is now 148
Oh my,
Jamaican to one US.
148.
Yes. So we covered the inflation topic when we talked about the consumer price index and the show.
Mm.
And if persons have been following Tone Cry, all the topics that were covered here were also covered on Tone Cry in a different way. Now people might be wondering, oh, it's because you guys are in the same movement. No, it's not. This is because we all recognize the fundamental problem that the trajectory of Jamaica is on a downward spiral because of the governance structure, which allows self-serving politicians to prioritize self and short-term interest over the long-term developmental goals of the nation. And that is what is happening. So all that you have said, Brother Devon, is right on point. And if the people of Jamaica are listening and learning, they will understand why the UIC need to be in government to repair this damage. But here's the thing. Persons should not get the illusion that the UIC will repair 75 years of damage in one turn, 4 years. It will take successive UIC government. Because guess what's going to happen? When the UIC gets elected, the party will still try to retain vestige of its power and vestige of colonialism. And as the laws change and the systems change, they will try to sabotage it. They will try to push back at it. And all those people that they have hidden in different government agencies and different places to protect them and their corrupt dealings will be pressed into action, will be activated to undermine a UIC government, which is a legitimate government of the people trying to correct the mistakes of our predecessors. So UIC has a plan, but that plan, that mandate will need to come from the people. The people will need to say, UIC, you have our support, go and do this. And we can't do it without the people's support because it will require us getting into the nuts and bolts of the system, taking it apart, not ripping it apart, taking it apart carefully, finding the defects, removing them, and rebuilding the machine, not even fixing it, rebuilding the machinery to slowly take this country out of the recession that it is in. Now, I had a big question for today, Brother Devon. And my big question for today was, and I started doing the big question feature, if you can remember, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. So the big question for today was supposed to be, what type of leaders does Jamaica need now? And the discussion between yourself, President Patterson, and I has brought us out. The kind of leader that Jamaica needs now, more than ever, now, right now, is not a dictator, but a responsive leader, one who listens to the people, one who has the people's best interest at heart, not the party and not external forces. Because we have found ourselves as beggars, going with our hands out, asking for handouts and grants and loans from multilateral agencies that we don't know what they'll be asking for in return. And they have been proven to be very restrictive in what they ask for. They restrict how we spend and restrict what we can spend on. Maybe not out of malice, but out of the fact that they have to exercise control to make sure they can get their monies back. That's how their system is predicated. Yes, Devon.
Winston. So the government borrowed 150 million US from the World Bank since year. I can't remember how much they took from the IMF. Do you recall?
I don't recall how much they took from the IMF, but they've kept that a closely guarded secret because when I did my checks, they weren't showing any loan balance, but I still have their budget to go through.
Yeah, so they took 150 million US from the World Bank to deal with COVID-19. I have a very simple way of freeing up funds. It's very, very easy. So you know how the government amended the Disaster Risk Management Act to add fines for not wearing masks or for not social distancing?
Right.
All the government needs to do to free up money for the country is to create fines for corrupt politicians and corrupt officials and create long sentences for anyone prosecuted for it. No, the reason why I say that can free up a lot of money is because Jamaica loses 750 million US dollars every year due to corruption.
Well,
Are you
listen,
following me?
that is a lot of money. That paves a lot of roads. That builds schools. That pays nurses, doctors, and we can go on and on. So yeah, I am following you. But look at this. That 150 billion that they have borrowed just moved the national debt. So we are at 2.2 trillion right now. So it has brought it just within the space of a couple of months closer to 2.5 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the national debt. Based on the last calculation I did and their repayment plan for this financial year, it would take 815 years to pay off the national debt
Mm-hmm.
at the current rate if there are no penalties or interest or anything like that.
But Winston,
815 years. Do you have that amount of time, Devon?
but Winston, here's the thing. And a lot of people are going to be very, very surprised when I say this. There is a reason why all the countries in the world right now are running up their debt. The reason is the existing global economic system that we have is crashing, right? And in order to speed up the crash, we have to increase the amount of debt that we have because it is important to them that we reset the global economy. So as governments, the Canadian government, the US government, the Jamaican government, as all of these governments continue to run up their debt, it's going to be forgiven in ways that will not be beneficial to us as a people.
That we can see coming. So it's even more urgent that before a particular date, that our government is in the hands of responsive people that understand that the people come first and not the system.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what the UIC offers. Now, I will soon have to go, Brother Devon, and I know you have a meeting coming up.
Yeah.
But just to point out to my fellow Uniters and Jamaicans listening everywhere, here and abroad and in the diaspora, I hear the government boasting of remittances coming in and how much it is. And I spoke about it recently, that the boast about remittance coming to Jamaica is disgraceful because it means that your people can't take care of themselves. They're dependent on handouts. And we can't take care of ourselves because every Jamaican, based on the current population of Jamaica, owes $751,865.67, even if you were born yesterday. Even if you haven't earned a dollar. And think about all the young people that are below 17 years of age. Think about that. So that is what we're facing. And your point is well taken about the cycle of debt that seem to be prevalent in all economies, large and small. So again, the people need to wise up and seek protection in the hands of a responsible group of people. And the UIC offers that care in hand.
Mm-hmm. And Winston, people need to understand that when a country cannot pay its debt to the World Bank or to the IMF or to other countries that it borrowed from, it has to give up something in return. And that's what I was talking about when these debts will be quote unquote forgiven. You're going to have to give something up to cancel those debts. Right?
Yes, yes.
And it's happened to multiple countries before where their sovereignty was at risk because of the amount of debt that they owed and couldn't pay back.
Definitely.
Experienced this. I think Greece, another South American country. I can't remember which one, if it was Mexico or Brazil. I don't remember which one. Yes, the sovereignty of your nation is at risk when you run up the debt and can't pay it back. That's what the Jamaican people need to understand.
I have this interesting question, Devon. I want us to look at. I hope you can see it. Can you see the question?
Where's the question?
All right. I have it on chat overlay. Let me read it for you. There's someone asking. Sorry, I lost the track of it. Give me 1 second.
In the chat room,
Yes. Are we going to live to see that type of government? A government who really love the land and the people enough to do what is best for all the people of Jamaica?
you want me to answer that question?
Yeah, are you going to
Truthfully?
answer too?
You want
Yes,
me to answer
man.
the question truthfully? No.
Yes, man.
I'm going to tell you why I said no. We're going to live to see a UIC government start the process. But listen, because of the ultra toxic partisanship nature of our people and of our political system, you mentioned it before, Winston, they are going
Yes.
to fight tooth and nail to ensure that a system built by the people for the people, a system that protects equally protects the life, liberty, and property of all Jamaicans, a system that gives Jamaicans access to the justice system, equal access to the justice system, is not brought about in our lifetime. The only way for Jamaica to experience, to have a government that truly cares for the people, a government that truly works for the people, is for the Jamaican citizens right now to be in support of the UIC and the UIC policies. And when I say in support of the UIC and the UIC policies, I don't mean it in the form of be in support of a political party. No, what I mean is be in support of the movement. The UIC is a political movement. You have to be in support of the movement in order to see that change. So as long as we have this ultra toxic partisanship nature in our citizenry, right? We're not going to be seeing that kind of government in our lifetime. It's going to take our descendants. It's going to take our children, your children, Winston, my children, the children of the people who believe in a true, free, non-partisan republic to implement that change in their lives. That's my answer.
No. My answer is this. Will we live to see a government? Persons of my age, and forgive me, yours, persons in our age range will not. Because a democracy, a system of governance like this takes time to build. And we have already spent 75 precious years, bliss, blinded, hoodwinked, tricked, bamboozled, without realizing that we are nowhere on the road to realizing that level of freedom as a former enslaved people. But take heart for the person who asks the question. A system like this, when it ignites, when it takes root, when it is cemented, our succeeding generations will have the opportunity to nurture it to where it needs to be, to make it a mature, blossoming democracy, governance system that works. But we have to educate them and the nation to understand that service above self is what is important. A system, not the individual, is what is important. Community, not the individual, is what is important. And therefore, work together, not in the divisive way that we are used to, not in the house slave versus field slave versus Bakra system that we are used to, but a truly cooperative system to establish a long-term, thriving Afro-Caribbean community that the entire world will look upon. But it will happen. But we have to pay attention to the long-term goals, the detractors, the underminers, the saboteurs, and be focused and allow the UIC to do its work.
And we are doing this not for ourselves, not just for ourselves. We're doing this for our children. We want our children, even though the rights that we now enjoy is a mirage, it's an illusion, we want our children to have real rights that are protected equally by the government. And that is what we're fighting for.
I say to people, Devon, that what is going on right now with this emerging dictatorship, it does not frighten me because it makes me angry, and not because I perceive a threat to me, because I've lived more than half my life, believe it or not. based on life expectancy with the violent crime and the level of toxicity in all the things that are produced for our daily consumption. What I fear is the perceived threat to my kids, because we're all hardwired to prepare for the succeeding generation, for the transmission of our genetic material to the next generation and beyond, for the propagation of the species. And the black race, the Jamaican nation, will thrive and survive, but only if we realize that we need to cauterize the wounds that we're suffering socially and move on, transcend to the next level. We have wasted 75 years. And the UIC is offering the golden opportunity to do that here and now. And again, the veils have been removed from our eyes, and we now see that we have not the freedoms we thought we had. We have not the rights that we believe or we were told we had, that we were lied to every step of the way, that the freedom that our ancestors died for was ambushed. It was taken by persons that should have had our best interests at heart. And it is now serving their and their succeeders selfish means. So what do you do now that the truth has been revealed to you? Do you bury your head in the sand and pretend that it's not happening and cry, dear God, oh captain, my captain? Or are you going to stand up and be counted? Are you going to make your voice be heard? Are you going to be that one, that righteous voice that says this cannot happen? Because one thing, we all love our kids. And if you believe that, you know what, I can survive in this system, will your child survive? Don't you owe it to your child to create a better system? So I say to you, stand up, my fellow Jamaican, be counted. There is better. There is better for you, for your child, for this great country. It is time for this foolishness to end. Hold your politicians accountable. And it doesn't matter which party you support. I see someone saying, oh, I would support your movement, but only if I wasn't a. It doesn't matter which political label you subscribe to. It doesn't matter which political affiliation you want to claim. Time we rise above these petty labels and realize that Jamaica, an island, finite landmass, we're all stuck here, regardless of our social affluence or economic affluence. We're all stuck here, and we will only survive here working together. And the divisions that you have created with upper class and lower class, with Jacks Hill and Halfway Tree, with Montego Hills and Mount CLM, it's all irrelevant. Like I always like to tell people, I can't have and don't expect my neighbor to have, because I will never be able to keep it when my neighbor has a want or a need. And the good I expect for me, I expect for everybody's child in Jamaica. So when I fight for everybody's child.
Yes. And I got to thank everyone again for tuning in. This is my last word before I jump into my next meeting. I posted the link just now in the chat to join the UIC. If you don't see the link, just visit www.uicjamaica.com and click the membership and donation portal to join the UIC, as well as to donate to the UIC, because the UIC will become the next government in the next general election. Because if we do not, I cannot begin to impress upon you the like, I don't even know what to say. Look at what's happening right now. I want you to imagine that if the government receives another term to do again what it has done today, right? And this is my last word. Join the UIC today, please.
Now, I'm not even thinking of the government. I'm thinking of the entire political system if it continues as it is, Devon, in this unresponsive and uncaring way, or the succeeding generations are doing. But UIC is here. Join the UIC. And again, each one educate one. Share this with all your friends. We're not talking about the basic stuff of life. We're talking about bringing real change to Jamaica and the lives of Jamaicans. It will take time and it will take your support. But we are available to answer your questions, to keep you educated, to keep you informed as to what is happening in your country and how to become a more responsive, more educated citizen. Because an educated citizen is one that is not one that is pliable, that one can't be brainwashed, that is one that can't be lied to, it's one that can't be tricked. So be educated. The UIC is here to educate you. And as usual, thank you for joining me on Town Cry. This is your Town Crier, Winston Wright, on UIC Liberty TV. It was a pleasure having VP Thompson and the president, Mr. Joseph Patterson, the money doctor himself, here with me this morning. We went off script, but I'm sure you enjoyed it. I'm sure it was riveting, and I'm sure you understood exactly what UIC means for you and exactly what governance is. And if you don't, pop on to our website. All our details are there. It will keep you informed and educated, and we're available on social media all over. We're very interactive, very available. Not like the elitist government that you see that don't answer questions, letters, official requests. And again, I showed you our official request, what it looks like. So there's no mistake in it. It's an official request. So ask us your questions. We'll be happy to answer. And again, it's great having you on Town Cry as usual. Have a blessed day.